Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Entrepreneur Encounters. I'm Brent F. Wasson, Milwaukee small business coach, and I'm honored to be here with you today. Entrepreneur Encounters started as a journey to help us understand we have to know the stories of other entrepreneurs who are a little bit ahead of us so that we can figure out how to learn from their successes, their trials, their struggles, and ultimately their path forward so that we too can be successful without having to relearn everything. That's why I'm particularly excited for our guest that we're having on today, Morgan Phelps, the CEO and founder of Colorful Connections. I met Morgan 4 or 5 years ago, and I've had the privilege of talking with her quite a few times to watch her continued journey to make Colorful Connections amazing. I think when you listen to her story, the progress that she's made, some of the struggles she's been through, and how she's continued to evolve, grow, and make her business amazing, you're going to find it's great. So without further ado, Morgan, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Thank you for having me. It's nice to chat.
Cool.
It's
Hey,
been a while.
tell our audience a little bit about yourself and your business.
Surely. So my name is Morgan Phelps, and I am the founder and CEO of Colorful Connections. Brent was actually my first business coach, so it's been a while, and I'm sure we'll be able to catch up on a lot. Um, Colorful Connections is a social enterprise, and we're a diversity recruiting and retention firm. The services that we provide, I liken it to, I'm about analogies, so a three-legged stool, where if one leg is unstable and wobbly, then the whole thing topples over. So for diversity, equity, and inclusion within organizations, we look at that from the same perspective in terms of how to create stability. So for us, those three pillars or legs of a stool is the ability to attract, retain, and grow that inclusive and diverse team. Of course, with that, you need a stable foundation, but those are the critical areas to look at. So our services fall under all those pillars. And we are based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we do work with clients nationally, profit, for-profit, or nonprofit. And we are actually wrapping up our second workshop with our second global client. So that's exciting. So it's been an adventure.
Congratulations. I think it's one of the signposts of success that you've been able to land some global clients. So kudos on that. Why did you want to become an entrepreneur? You knew it was going to be a difficult road, but you chose to go down it anyway. So why did you make that choice?
I don't think I want. So the thing to back up, I never intended. Some people want to start their own business, and like this is the plan from the get-go, and that was not my plan. My plan, I saw a need, I saw a problem, I was very frustrated. My background is that I have before Colorful Connections, my experiences in PR and color in the communications industry. Very homogenous industry, cutthroat, competitive. And I was always one of few on the client side, on the creative side. So, and one of few, meaning one of few people of color. And whether it was a small firm or going all the way up to global aspirational clients and accounts and firms, it was just reality. That was always the issue. And the issues that come with that actually come with that, I'm sure I don't need to explain at this point. So at the time, there was a lot of conversation about, oh, what do we do? We need talent. They're not out there. People of color aren't out there. It's like, okay, I'm here. And then also at the time, I was running a group in Chicago, was working and living in Chicago at the time, back home, and was running a group for women of color in this industry. And for me, I'm like, I've got the people, and you're over here, and it just seemed like a supply and demand problem, a communications gap. You want to hire these people over here, but for some reason, there's a communication challenge at its core. So when I started Colorful Connections, I first created a partnership program, and that was helping leaders in the industry in Chicago, connecting them with underrepresented professionals who either were in the industry or wanted to get into the industry or wanted to transfer into a cousin of a type field, meaning I did corporate comms and now you want to do marketing, right? So how can someone make that transition and making the right connections? And that's what I thought. I thought that would be enough. And it was a very successful program, high engagement. But that didn't solve the problem of helping people get jobs and meaningful career opportunities at these companies and doing the work that they want to do and hearing the lip service and the gaslighting on that other end of it. So, again, just from a personal frustration and desire and passion, I got frustrated, and I typically get frustrated when I hear all of the continuous excuses and, year after year after year, you're going to these conferences and events and they keep giving the same excuses. So it's like, I'm just going to, help to tackle the problem. My job as a communications practitioner is taking a client problem and coming up with an idea, a pie in the sky idea, and then we execute it, we implement it, and we move on and we solve a client's problem. So for me, if this were a client problem, my firm, my team as a communications practitioner, a specialist, we would be able to solve this problem. So if the will is there, we should be able to create a solution. So give all this context because I started digging into the problem as I would approach it with a client. So I started doing research and understanding the other side of the conversation that I didn't have as much access to, the candid challenges and feedback. So I started speaking to talent acquisition directors and hiring managers and those who even quit an agency working in a top HR type role and function and hearing from them, what is the problem? Why did you leave? What don't I know? What's going on? And from there, I started reworking the approach. So it went from a program into an exploration of how do you create a sustainable solution to this problem? Because again, the supply is here, the demand theoretically is here. So if the demand is genuine, how can we address this? And as I was researching based on feedback that I received and those in the business community as well, I developed the business model that we currently have today for Colorful Connections. So it kind of just evolved into a business. I kind of just came into, I guess, the entrepreneur role. Just because that's kind of where it led me. And the passion was there. And I am risk averse. So I will say that I asked so many people and I pressure tested my business plan against so many people, you being one of them. And I think you were with me in the early stages of pressure testing to get a no. I wanted a firm no, that this is not going to work. And Morgan, you're crazy. And, the problem is what it is. And no matter who I talked to, those who ran their own staffing firms and recruiting firms and HR directors, accountants, COOs, just a random mix of people, I never received a no. I just received yes, and yes, this is great. Yes, this is needed. And this is what you should consider and incorporate as you move forward. And I just kept doing that. So I'm very coachable. So it was, I don't know what I don't know. And I wasn't trying to start a company. So give me all of the advice and I'll put it together and I'll do this crazy thing of starting a company so that I can help others. And that's kind of how it came about. So long-winded, I know, and long story to your question, but yeah, there's a lot more that went into it. So I wasn't that person of entrepreneur. Here I come.
No, what I love about that is that you really approached it with identifying a problem. It's something as a coach that I encourage folks to do all the time. A lot of people come with a solution and they try and build a business around it. You identified a problem. And then ultimately a business formed around it, which I think is actually an organic and a better way to do it, because you went out and you were immediately testing the problem. You were looking for pushback and you were looking for no right away. So that makes you an A student in my book, because those are the pieces that we want. We want to get to know quickly, because if it's a bad idea or a problem that doesn't need to be solved, or no one's willing to pay you to solve the problem, then it's not an idea we need to pursue for a business. So I loved actually hearing the story and how it progressed and how you tested it and how you were willing to reach out to a lot of people, because a lot of folks they'd be discouraged. They'd be afraid. What if someone does tell me no? What if someone does tell me, I don't think this is a really good idea? That's scary information to take. And you took the opposite approach of yes is the scary approach to take. I'm actually looking for a no. So I love that. And I think that's what has allowed you to be successful. We're going to touch on that some more later in the interview. You obviously had to make some trade-offs along the way as you started to figure out, I think this is going to become a business. What were some of the trade-offs and some of the choices that you would have to make in order to say, I'm going to pursue this with the amount of energy I need to make it successful?
If I could pause and answer on that question and just go back to something that you said in terms of looking for like a no. The no's are good. The no's, I did run into a couple of people where, and one in particular was so influential and actually a key game changer for a no, where I presented the idea to him and I kind of left out a lot of the rationale in terms of why diversity, equity, and inclusion matters in the workplace. And this guy that I was talking to was a Black man, older Black man, ran his own business, and in the business scene gave me feedback of said, I don't believe this is true. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, the assumption was just there that he would get it. And when I started Colorful Connections, it was focused on a very niche industry for the PR, communications, advertising industry, the industry and the problem that I was looking to solve. And he said, I don't believe if a person of color were in the room, that all of these problems that you're talking about here on, in terms of ads and controversial problems and campaigns, that this would address it. So his argument was similar to others in the belief that it's correlation, not causation. Correlation of diversity, equity, and inclusion can result in, in change and differences. And he caused me to back up and ground everything that I did in the causation point and establishing that as a truth. And it's how I lead. It's how we navigate our conversations. It's how we navigate and begin with the foundation of our workshops is talking about and hammering home the business implications so that there isn't the question and the assumption of causation or correlation. You understand the implications from a business perspective and how this all is coming together. That said, and I promise I'll get to your question, that said, when you're talking about finding the problem, yes, I guess I synthesized all of the feedback to understand the problem, to then understand here are some solutions to fix the problem. But the problem with the problem is that we're talking to clients and leaders, people leaders, business leaders who don't understand the problem. So sometimes it's a process to understand what is the problem to then help provide the right type of support and solution. So for those who are developing their businesses, and figuring out what makes sense to design correctly from the beginning is making sure you're addressing the right problem. There's a huge issue, right? But what is the main pain point? What is the problem that you are specifically solving? What is the problem that your client is specifically solving? What is their pain point? And then what are the services that then help to meet that problem? Not everything surrounding it and might be related to it, but really addressing that part of it. So I just want to make sure and come back to that part. That's it. In terms of compromises, I gave up a cushy 9 to 5 and fluffy salary and benefits and, more harmony with my work life, existence. You know, I traded, I guess, that and stability and consistency of like, it's something where, you know, when that paycheck is coming every 2 weeks, you know, it's very different when you're working, you know, as an entrepreneur. I would say another difference as well is that you were creating a brand new brand. So when you're working as an employee, working for someone else, working as a contractor, well, no, kind of sort of as a contractor, but you're able to represent when you come out and you represent and you talk to others, your automatic credibility comes with your employer. So, okay, I believe you because you worked at fill in a blank impressive company. Okay, I got you. Say no more. The assumption and credibility is there. Let's keep the conversation going. As an entrepreneur, especially when you're starting your business, you're starting from scratch in the ground up. So you're having to pull in those early adopters who believe and who'll give you a shot. And you're also having to come out on your own, just with you and yourself and your word until you're able to build up that experience and that portfolio, depending on your service and the function of your business. But you're having to build that up, you know, as you're building your clientele and as you're trying to grow and as you're trying to make money. And that oftentimes can be very difficult. And I think was a little bit more of a surprise than I originally anticipated.
So you mentioned that the distinction between causality and correlation was really important to you with how you were going to your marketplace. Are you able to talk about that a little bit? Because I feel like that's one of the items that can hold the industry back a little bit is when if clients don't really understand that distinction, that they're not really seeing that we're not talking about matters of opinion or matters of guessing, but we're talking about matters of, you know, items that you can track and see and actually point to, hey, this truly does cause that.
Yeah, I'll try to be concise with this. But diversity, equity, inclusion is 100% related to the bottom line. So if we just continue with the industry that I'm talking about and giving examples, when you're developing an ad campaign, a marketing campaign, you know, coordinating PR events, or launching a new product, it's critical that you're keeping your consumer in mind, your target user, your end user. And there's research that proves if at least one member of a team represents the target end user, the entire team is as much as 158% more likely to innovate accordingly. 158% more likely. So that means the new ideas, but then also when we're thinking of the missed opportunities and the misses, you know, there are the bad campaigns, but there are the misses that we don't know we're missing. There are the opportunities for innovation that you don't know. And when you're talking about market expansion, those are the opportunities that you don't know. Those are the missed opportunities that you're missing because you don't have representation within your team that can relate and understand either cultural nuances or different lived experiences, or how to, you know, if you're looking at a campaign and you're trying to do a bilingual campaign, just because you have a translator doesn't mean it's going to hit right for the community. So those are certain areas where it's critical, and it shows in the work of what you're doing. And one other example just to share is a sense of belonging. So the idea of inclusion is where you feel included as a part of your team, but belonging is the ultimate goal that teams, managers, employers are looking for, where you feel like, again, you can, you know, that analogy of, you know, dancing. Diversity is inviting people to the dance. Inclusion is, you know, actually dancing. But belonging is when, you know that the song that you love is going to play and that you can jam out. Or are you a person with disability, and is there, let's say you're wheelchair bound, and there's opportunity there for you to still enjoy the party, and there's no question, and you can still be yourself and enjoy it, and no questions asked. Are you able to unleash yourself in that way? Are you able to unleash your thinking and your wonderful ideas within the workplace because you have a sense of belonging, whether it's a good idea or bad idea? you know that you're not going to be judged off of that, but more so off of your contributions as a team player, out of the output of your ideas. And that sense of belonging also, and just jiving and liking the people that you work with. And that sense of belonging translates into extreme financial savings because of fewer sick days, or as you're looking for referrals with for new employees, you're able to leverage your current employees. So depending on the size of the organization, if a company is a size of 100, it can save you $520,000 just by having a sense of belonging within the culture. So these things 100% translate to the bottom line and the effectiveness of the output of your work.
So ultimately, what you're hoping to build is a culture within organizations. It's not an initiative. It's not a one-time event or an annual event, but you're building a culture to drive that feeling of belonging. And then the ultimate benefits that'll flow down to both the employees and the company as a result.
Yeah, there's a lot of culture change. Yes. And a positive culture. What type of culture? Everyone has a culture, but what type, you know?
Yeah. How do you stay on top of the industry? This is a movement that's obviously getting a lot of traction. There are new innovations. You just mentioned there's new research coming out. You're getting, objections, questions, comments from people you're trying to solicit to become your customers and clients. So how do you stay on top of your industry, and how do you make sure that you're the premier in your category?
We take in a lot of information. So in addition to that, I listen. I continue to listen and just talk to others. I talk to other DEI officers, experts, specialists. What are you seeing? What's going on? I listen to clients or contacts. What's happening in your world? What are the challenges? Others who are in the trenches and facilitating workshops and learning experiences to understand pain points that are coming up, and just understand holistically, like, where are we now? What problems are coming up on the horizon for you? Where have you made progress and where have you not? So I just kind of absorb all that, in addition to just understand at the very least still where the trend and the problem is. And then for candidates, I don't think the problem has changed too much, unfortunately. So it's still, just making sure of staying relevant with that. I'll say that since we started, the one thing that has changed a little bit more is higher expectations of how employers show up and the work that people are doing to make sure that it's impactful. So that part, there is more accountability and higher standards when professionals are interviewing with companies and even deciding who to potentially work for and work with.
I love it. I love that the bar has been raised and the focus has shifted to the employer's responsibility to figure out how to come to the game that way. Let's shift a little bit. And I want to talk about the resources and means it took to get this started, because starting any business, even when it's not capital intensive, takes quite a bit of resources, in part because you're going to devote so much time to it. So can you share your journey and what type of means and resources you're able to bring to the start and to continue sustaining your business?
Sure, I'll cry a little bit. I'm just playing. So part of it started with my personal savings, and it started there. I'm still self-funded, so I've grown the company by smartly reinvesting whatever profit we've had to be able to grow the business. So it's never really like net profit right now. And that's kind of how I've been going about it. I would say, in terms of friends and family, fundraising and whatnot, that wasn't really something that applied to me. When I was able to, and this was shortly after and coming out of COVID, so this was in the back half of 2020, after the tragic murder of George Floyd, suddenly when the world and companies were reawakening on the need for DEI, because earlier that year they told me that it was not essential and they did not know when they would be revisiting conversations with me at all about anything hiring related, culture related, workshop related. That's not in our interest. So all of a sudden, in my company, I almost didn't have a company. I was like, oh, that was short-lived. That was nice. And after the conversation changed, then the work started picking back up. but the cash flow wasn't necessarily there. So when you get a contract, that doesn't necessarily mean that's when you're getting paid. And even when you're scheduled to get paid, doesn't mean that you'll get paid on time. So I started running into a cash flow problem at that time. And eventually I was lucky enough where it did catch up. It was pretty dicey for a bit. And then after that, I was able to secure a line of credit. And it did take me a while. And I got a lot of no's from a lot of lenders. Originally, I was looking for a loan. That didn't work. I was looking for a line of credit, and then I kept receiving no's. And then Legacy Redevelopment Corporation was a wonderful match in understanding me as an entrepreneur and the challenges that I was going through without me even having to explain it, but understanding that success for them, yes, they're going to look through the financials hardcore. And just like any lender, they're going to have you put something up for collateral and have some reassurances, but they weren't, they were more understanding in terms of my journey and the impact that I was trying to make. So they're more of a social impact, community impact focused lender. So I would say and suggest to others as you're reaching that point to be able to look for financial assistance that a lending institution like that would be helpful. I also did, you mentioned generator. I have gone through the G Beta program, Colorful Connections did, and it was a wonderful, rigorous program. And your machine, your business becomes a machine, and they start figuring out how do you make this, if it's assembly line, like just, drive it forward. And, like it's a lot of momentum, it's intense, but the output is good, whatever you need to, that boost for it, it truly accelerates you in that sense. And they connected me further with the investor scene, but that was, introducing me, it does not really work when less than 1% of Black female founders receive VC funding. So I was actually standing up on stage at a pitch competition, and I remember I was saying this stat because I was like, this is why you should choose me, because, I've got momentum, I've proven the concept, I am here, I'm the underdog, support me. And then it just clicked of, why am I up here? Like less than 1% of me gets funding. And I keep doing this dance, and just expecting people to come to me. But research shows that they're not interested. And something for some reason will happen where I don't get funding. I've started changing or this year, well, at that point, I just reinvest my time, my very precious little time and resources to focusing on the business versus being in that scene. And that's how I decided to just pump my time and resources into growing the business in that respect. I've started opening up to be more willing now to consider funding or investors as well. And we'll see where that goes. But I'm less confident just based on my biases and experiences in terms of what will happen. But I'm hopeful. I do think that there's opportunity with the right person, but it's been a journey. And aside from that, the practice and MO will remain to continue to reinvest smartly what we make.
I love that concept. I love that you're talking about investing it. So many businesses are not going to be able to rely on outside funding beyond a bank. They're not going to be able to rely on friends and family. They're not going to be able to rely on investors. So they have to figure out how to make the business generate revenue. And a lot of times it does start with that personal commitment, personal infusion to begin with. So congratulations for being able to continue to move through, because that's such an enormous step. Talk about your support. You have people that you reached out to. I know we got connected on coaching early, but I want to hear about your community support, because no one does this alone. It's a myth if anyone believes that entrepreneurship is a solo journey. So talk about your support community.
Surely. I will say that I have intentionally surrounded myself with people who are supportive of what I'm doing. And it was only because I started discovering along the way that those who I thought would actually be there to support me were not supportive. And those in my close circle were, and not a ton, but a couple, like very influential people it could be of just saying, I don't know if you have it out for it. I just don't think you should. Maybe you shouldn't do your own business. Maybe you're not a good business owner. You know, it's like, no, this is like you said, this is a roller coaster. This is the early stage. This is a startup journey. I don't have a backer. I wasn't incubated in, you know, a larger established company to give me a runway with their infrastructure. You know, I don't have a partner. I didn't start out with a partner. So every entrepreneur has a very different journey. Every company, as they are starting and ramping up, has a very different story. My support system was shaky, and I started when I'm typically facing like a challenge of what do I do and just feeling at a loss. I try to come from a place of abundance. So I started realizing that I had naysayers who were in my ear and close in my ear. And I decided to focus on those who were around me and saying, Morgan, how can I help? Who can I put you in touch with? Let's meet about your sales plan, or let's figure out how to, you know, like work on your pitch and how can I help you, you know? And I just started focusing on those people, the positive energy. And from there, I started developing an advisory board because it was a little tricky to speak with everyone one off. So I said, okay, can we like get together and then I share updates with you all at one time, and then maybe you all can give me advice and, you know, help me to connect the dots on everything. And that's how I started developing an advisory board and just doing quarterly check-ins. And even from a personal emotional support, huge value. So that was very critical. Personally, I will also say, you know, business coaches and the Biz Starts program, any of those types of networks are helpful. And I would also say peers. So while every entrepreneur has a different journey, finding those along the way who are like you or in the same challenge are very helpful as well, so that you know that it's not just you going through it. So Biz Starts, I know that, you know, it's not, I think that's an example of a program where you can start to find your place and start to find your people, and, you know, start to build a cohort to then understand and find other entrepreneurs to then, hey, what did you do with that marketing problem? I mean, we had an email problem for a while, like our newsletters, it was the biggest headache ever. It's like, look, your email, they just weren't getting to people because spam filters were blocking them. And we figured that out eventually. But even that was just like, look, we're putting all this effort into these like friends and family newsletters we're supposed to be doing, and they're not reaching people. What are you doing? Because I get your emails all the time. And I don't even get my own emails because my spam filter blocks it. What's going on? So literally having these conversations. Oh my God, my accountant sucks. You know, what do I do? I need another accountant. Do you have referrals? Who's doing your accounting? You know, those are types of conversations that it seems small, but it's really big. And also just warnings about don't work with this accountant, or don't, you know, use this type of service, those types of things. So, yes, building the support network is critical, and there you shouldn't assume that those who are in your circle are your supporters in creating a business. So just look at it from a different perspective and just know that, you know, they might show up differently and they might look different.
So true. When we talk about entrepreneurial mindset, one of the pieces we talk about within the power to choose and surrounding yourself with those you influence, the naysayers are, it's going to get into your head. So you have to make a choice to hang out with the people who are going to support you, going to build you up. I'd love for you to, if you can spend a couple minutes talking about how you actually recruited that board of advisors, because they're volunteers who choose to spend time and energy building your business. So how do you convince people to do that?
I just asked them. Truly, they were the ones who were showing up for me already. And they were the ones who were asking, how can I help? And who were willing to go out of their way to like have a meeting and just have those conversations. So you'll see what support looks like as it shows up. And I just started paying attention to then, and I didn't have a ton of naysayers who were bold enough to, say it, but I was just paying attention to where as you walk the talk, like they weren't just saying, sure, I support you, I believe in you, and whatever. It's like, no, I support you. How can I help? Like, whatever that looks like, how can I show up? I had this pitch competition in Madison, and then afterwards, and I won, right? Woo-hoo. And then there was an investor who came, she was looking for me afterwards, a member of an investor team. And there was someone who was there, and through a relationship, through my husband, knew of me and said to the investor, as the investor was saying, hey, do you know where like Morgan Phelps is with Colorful Connections? Like she was just on the stage. Oh, who? Oh, that's okay. I know her. That's just a little pet project. Don't worry about finding her. So long story short, that person ended up becoming a friend and a supporter. Afterwards, when she finally found me, said, I'm not trying to, upset you, but I think that you should know something. And, just kind of made me aware of something that I kind of knew, and probably knew, just didn't realize someone would be so bold as to, do something like that and to disrupt something that like trying to raise a, start a business. Do you have a business? Did you just start a business? Did you just win a pitch competition? But she became a supporter. So you find the supporters as you're going along in your journey, and just pay attention again, who shows up and who's looking out for your best interest, and who shows that they're looking out for you and your best interest. And that's how I started it. And then just ask. Well, you meet once every 4 quarter, or once a quarter, and what are the expectations? Here's what I will expect you to do. Make it easy for them. Be very specific and clear when you have your advisory meetings, the update and what you need from them, the ask, and what you're hoping to do moving forward. And yeah, that's kind of how I started it.
That's beautiful. If everyone pauses the video right here, goes back and listens to those points Morgan just made, each business should have a board of advisors. You should have people who are not only building into you, but you can bounce ideas off of. You can get feedback, you can get suggestions, you can get referrals, you can get connections. That's what we're doing here. That's part of why we're doing this program. So that was absolute gold, Morgan. Thank you for sharing that story and your personal touch on it. Talk to me about perseverance. This is a key feature that you will not make it as an entrepreneur if you don't have perseverance. How have you persevered, over your time in this job?
A support system. I mean, there is some low of lows, and you need your support system to believe in you when you're kind of like, ugh, I don't know, this is a hard moment. You don't need that person saying, maybe you weren't cut out for it. You need someone saying, you'll make it through it. This is a rough patch, but look at all the success that you've had. You're a growing company. You're doing this by yourself. Don't get frustrated, like just have faith and keep going. You need that reinforcement. And that optimism, and not that they have to feed you false comments of you're doing great and like you're suffering. You just need to know that this is a part of building a company and a part of operating a company where you will have highs, you will have lows. You will have every now and then a moment when things are, getting better, but you're either in the process. I think the saying goes, you're either putting out a fire, you're running from a fire, or you're about to run into a fire, so there is something that's always going on that you kind of just have to start embracing as like the norm. And I would say, aside from that, to be able to withstand that, it's important to just focus on, you as an individual, and self-love and self-care, and whatever that looks like. So for me, my family's in Chicago, and it's critical that I get to see them, and it just kind of fills my spirit in a very unique way. Working out, eating right, or, binge watching on TV, whatever it is that you need to just unwind and make sure that your long days and your long hours and all of your hard work, there's something to fill your cup up with.
That's excellent. Tell us about your brand. Tell us how you want people to perceive you. This is the opportunity to kind of promote the business.
Well, Colorful Connections, I hope that it's as approachable as I try to be. This is what we're talking about. It's very difficult at its core because it challenges a lot of unconscious beliefs and just ways of being. Like, we've grown up our entire lives a certain way. So to all of a sudden have someone tell you at a certain point to think differently is going to be a challenge. I mean, it's a challenge to go to the gym on a consistent basis. And now you want me to hold up, challenge what my church told me or what my parents have, taught me, or just my societal norm as I've been growing up and, having to think differently. So we try to approach the conversation and approach this topic in an approachable way, meeting people where we are, but working toward a common goal, toward just being better in general. Our team is comprised of those who are underdogs. We've been there, we've done that. So we want to help others. And we don't want to put anyone else in positions where we've been there ourselves, so we do, and it's not fail proof, so we work with employers as much as we can and making sure that we're making intentional matches. And, we just look to be there for support and time for employers who are looking to do it right and not check the box, that we are here for you. And we've developed and designed a variety of services that, again, help to meet people where we are. Again, it's the idea of like, what is the problem, to then figure out what is the solution. And in this industry, as it's evolving in this area of focus that's evolving and people are constantly learning about it, there is no one size fits all, and sometimes folks don't know what exactly they need. And there is even an internal battle and process where they need to chip away at a problem and they need help just, moving along until they can get to something big and significant, like a full-on assessment to just comb through everything and figure out at one time, okay, this is where we start. Or, to do this huge anti-racism workshop, of which we call is the equity broker. We call ours equity broker because we're focused on the solution. How can you be an equity broker, right? How do like that requires first empathy building, non-unconscious bias training, empathy building, again, approachable, but then we're chipping away at what's needed and the essential core skills in order to reach like an ultimate goal, to be habit forming, right? We just need to create different habits and think inclusively and think differently about the way that we approach topics, work, projects, so all of these things, it sounds so simple, but to develop a habit and to do things differently long term, you got to stay consistent and you got to ease into it the right way, in a very intentional way. And that's how we try to support employers and candidates.
I love it. What are 3 things you can leave with us to help our audience build better businesses?
You asked me this question earlier. 1 second. I did take some notes. Oh, one is the question that you asked earlier, is to have a support system, have a good support system, and just to continue to reevaluate that support system externally. Who are your people listening to? What are you feeding yourself, your brain plus your body? Resilience rather. You need to have that thick skin, and simply knowing that one setback doesn't mean the end of everything. You have to be able to continue moving forward. And it was something that I heard in it's like a startup week type series of events. And there was a speaker who was talking about the CEO of a company. You might be the one who starts and leads the company, but you may not also be, the thinker or the master chief technology officer, let's just say. So just recognizing, I guess, the point of your own personal limitations and where you shine, and knowing that even if you are the founder, even if you are the CEO, the only, or maybe one of 2, that you probably don't know it all, and that is absolutely okay. And the goal should be to hire people who are smarter than you. So I think it's a healthy challenge. It gets the ego out of the way and it helps to be more humble and think about the work that you're doing and the impact that you hope to make with your business and making the smart choices that you need in order to do that. Put yourself last.
Love it. Put yourself last and be willing to hire people and bring people in who are better and smarter than you are. How can people get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you or Colorful Connections?
They can go to our website, colorfulconnections.com. And my email address is morgan@colorfulconnections.com. Simple.
Awesome. Morgan, thank you for joining our episode today of Entrepreneur Encounters. We've been talking with Morgan Phelps, the CEO and founder of Colorful Connections. If you got nothing else out of our time together, remember the power of building a community. Get that advisory board, reach out to people, separate yourself from the naysayers, surround yourself from people who are going to support you. And remember, you're going to have highs, you're going to have lows, you're going to have super lows. That community is going to give you the strength to be able to get through. I don't do this alone either. I have some people who sponsor me along the way. Andrew Feller Photography has done all our photography both here and on our website. Buckethead Creative handles all of our graphic arts. Charlie's Music Factory and Chris Crane does the music on our way out. And Megan Bruzan Consulting helps us with the post-production and getting podcasts up online. So I'm Brent Halfwasson, Milwaukee small business coach. We help small business owners and entrepreneurs transform their hard work into hard cash. If I can help you out in any way and you want to meet with me and get 25 minutes free and let's talk about where you're at your business, I want to encourage you to do that. bit.ly/coach with Brent. That's bit.ly/coach with Brent. Let's go ahead and schedule some time and do that. And so I thank you. If you like what you've heard here, I want to encourage you to go ahead and subscribe. Check out some of our other long form videos. Otherwise, Chris, go ahead and take us out.